Hey, leaders, thank you for tuning in to Impact Leadership. I'm Brother Jackie, and I'm so glad that we have this time together, this time where we can share things together. I hope you got a pencil or a pen or something that you can write down a nugget, a leadership nugget that will make a positive difference in your leadership. Well, I'm going to make a statement to you about leadership, and that is this: people's perception is their reality. What a powerful thought that is in leadership. You see, people, when they perceive things, right or wrong, that's their reality. And as a leader, we got to be aware of that, because reality and perception can be two totally different things. You know that as well as I know that. The power of perspective is an incredible power. You know, we naturally do not see ourselves and others from the same perspective. We just don't. And as a leader, we have to be aware of this perception that we're dealing with. When we fail to see things from the perspective of others, we fail in our relationships. I've had to learn this the hard way. I've had to have those heart-to-heart talks with myself in leadership to go, you know what? I thought I saw it one way, they saw it another way. Now, who was right and who was wrong, it's a matter of perspective. But there's a reality somewhere in the middle of all that that we have to come to. And so, when I have failed in seeing the perspective of other people, it's strained relationships. And did you know that if you fail to see that perspective from other people, then you can really sabotage some wonderful relationships in your leadership life, and it can cause a lot of problems. Learning to see things from other people's perspectives helps us succeed in building those relationships. I think in leadership, we have to be consciously aware of that reality. And we have to make sure that we don't jump the gun on coming to conclusions about how people view things until we understand their perspective. And so as a leader, sometimes you can be so busy putting others in their place that you don't make the effort to put yourself in someone else's place. And if we're not careful, we'll try to push our own perspective without first stopping and going, how did they see it? How did they hear it? How did they evaluate it? What position was they looking at it from? And I think in doing that, we have to be careful that we don't, as a leader, just engage in putting people in their place because we're determined that they were wrong. Let's first of all step back and just kind of ask, what perspective did they see it from? And I think in doing that, we can neutralize a lot of conflict. We can understand a lot of things that we, if normally would bow up on or get aggravated about or even become judgmental about. So we got to do that. So here's the question: how do you make the change? How do you begin to work through that? First of all, and boy, this is an important one: leave your place and visit their place. Now that's an interesting thought, that when you're dealing with perspective and you're trying to come to a reality, sometimes you got to leave your place and go to their place. It's so easy as leaders to sit behind the desk and come to a conclusion, when in reality, maybe we need to go visit the shop. Maybe we need to go out there and talk to the person from where they are to look at things from their perspective. When we look at things from their perspective, we may have a whole different view of how they're seeing it. So how do you make the change? Leave your place and go visit their place. The best way to keep from stepping on other people's toes is to put yourself in their shoes. And I've had to learn that in leadership. Now, let me say that to you again. The best way to keep from stepping on people's toes is to have to live in their shoes. And when we do that, we're able to, again, see things from their perspective and acknowledge that the other person has a valid viewpoint. You know, I've been able to experience a lot of this in real life. Everything I'm trying to tell you is real life issues. And when I am able to see things from another person's viewpoint, it gives clarity to how they perceive things. And so we have to look at it from that perspective. And then as a leader, I think we have to check our own attitudes. You know, sometimes you can get a stinking attitude about how people perceive things, and you may smart off or have a wisecrack about it or go, you know what, they're all idiots or they don't understand. Well, of course they don't, because they're seeing things from a different perspective. And we have to make sure that we check our attitude when we're trying to navigate to a reality in situations. And then I think that there is a question that is a great question to ask in these situations, and that is this. When you're dealing with one perspective versus another perspective, and maybe you've got one perspective, somebody else has got another, I think this is a wonderful question to ask the person. What would you do in my situation? And you give them permission to think it through. You know, sometimes we're just defensive, and man, you're talking about disarming people. You could say to people, well, what would you do if you were in my situation? How would you deal with that? So as you think about that, there's a lot of things that we're trying to give to you in this, but I just want you to remember that people have different points of view. And as leaders, we need to understand and appreciate how do we get a reality when you may have all kind of different perspectives, and can we come to a place where it's a reality so that everybody wins? In doing that, we sure do set ourselves up for some effective leadership. So thanks for tuning in to Impact Leadership. We'll talk to you next time.